The FCS College Football Experience NEC Conference Preview episode on the Sports Gambling Podcast Networks, brought to you by Circa Sports. Yes, Circa Sports is back with their Circa Survivor and Circa Millions contest. $14 million are up for grabs. Get all the details at circasports.com. And remember, as always, folks, too, let it ride.
Hey, what's up, you degenerate gamblers? This is Bill Burr, and you're listening to SGPN. Let it ride, baby.
Yes, yes, yes. Woo! Welcome. Welcome to the College Football Experience, the FCS College Football Experience, NEC Conference Preview. I'm excited to talk Northeastern Conference Preview and college football. It does not matter the division. I love college football. Just freshly back from Las Vegas and Mountain West Media Day in the FBS. So check out the main College Football Experience for more on that. And perhaps you're wondering just who the hell you're listening to, and that's fair. Well, my name is Colby Swinging Database Dan, aka Pick Dundee. That's not a pick. This is a pick.
He was raised in the land down under, where a man thinks on his feet, speaks with his fists, and lives by his wits.
When Dundee happened, he was a superstar.
I'm probably drinking too much and celebrating too much and not sleeping. Would have killed a normal man, but no, that's gone. The medical advice I got from that was like being hit by lightning. Pretend it never happened and get on with your life.
Yes, it's always good to talk football, and I am excited to talk NEC Conference. See, one of the great things about the NEC Conference is they have the NEC app, free to download in the App Store and Google Play Store. I imagine Google Play Store. I got it in the App Store. Look, you get all the games on demand. So let's say you're busy. You can't make your game. You got to go to your daughter's wedding or something. Well, you didn't teach you right. No fall weddings. I'm joking. No, you'll have it on demand there for whenever you want. All right. So maybe you've been working all day. You get home, wife's asleep. Throw on a little Long Island Shark, Duquesne Duke football game at midnight with a glass of whiskey. You and the dog are watching college football. Nothing wrong with that. I am joined by my co-host. Give it up for this guy. I know he's a NEC football warrior, all right, because he loves watching the Northeastern Conference Football League. And look, this guy knows college football as good as any. Give it up for Mike Rose, aka Gulf Coast Guru. How you doing, brother?
What's up, man? Listen, my girl today is dyeing her hair. Do you know what that means? That means I got to listen to a lot of talk today about my girlfriend dyeing her hair. So I am super ready for an injection of testosterone, talk a little NEC football, and get this thing rolling. What's up, man? Welcome back.
Yeah. And look, I mean, I'm surprised you didn't answer back with talk about that. You said, the Duquesne Dukes might be a little bit better this year, honey. Maybe you just dive into that. Graham is in the chat. He says, is this thing live? Of course it's live. Subscribe, tell a friend, the FCS College Football Experience, folks. So here we are talking NEC. And I'll be honest, I had an interview set up with Andy Avalos of Boise State. I said, you know what? I'm sorry. And no, I'm joking. There was a lot of scheduling maneuvers, but I had to get back into Los Angeles for this NEC Conference Preview. It's been on the schedule. I'm not going to miss the NEC. Let's go. This is a conference a couple of years ago. I had the Bryant Bulldogs before they left for the Big South. And, 8 teams. We're going to preview them all. We're going to actually start by going through our rankings of essentially, well, that's how we're going to preview the team, who we think is 8th all the way to 1st. But before we do all that, just in general, curious your thoughts of the NEC Conference. I know last season, St. Francis, the Red Flash, they made the FCS playoffs and got just absolutely fucking destroyed by Delaware. Now, that was crazy to me because I actually thought that would be a better game because I saw St. Francis. They should have beat Akron in the season opener. And I kind of just thought they were a better team than what that game really kind of, gave. They played at Richmond. I think it was like week 2 or 3, and they almost knocked off the Spiders. I mean, I think it was a 10-point game, but it was a close game in the fourth quarter at one point. So I expected Richmond made the FCS playoffs as well. They went out to Sacramento, California, and almost knocked off Sac State in a crazy game. So I expected them to fare better in the playoffs with St. Francis there, but man, they went to Dover, Delaware, and lost by 39 points. That's not fun. But what do you make of this conference in general?
Dude, very, very interesting conference. Some new teams coming up in there. You mentioned we lost Bryant, but I mean, you got LIU came up, and then Stonehill, Merrimack, all these teams coming up, and they're poised to make some noise here. We're gonna get into it. St. Francis, maybe things aren't looking as great as they did a season ago before that waxing by Delaware, but it just goes to show you sometimes when one of these teams that doesn't have a long history goes up against a blue blood that's not necessarily at their peak, the talent still shows through. So I'm very interested to see what you think of this conference, and I know I had fun digging in, so let's go.
Yeah, I actually had more fun digging in, I think, than the past. Like, it might have been like out of all the conferences we previewed, and I've had fun doing all of them. This one might have been my favorite thus far. I don't know if it was just because I had way more time to prep. So one of those shows, I think it was the first one, my prep time was like, man, I was cramming. I was fucking cramming. So this one I got a lot of time to ease into it. We're going to talk all about it, folks. But before we get to that, I want to tell you that the FCS College Football Experience is brought to you by Circa Sports. Yes, Circa Millions and Circa Survivor are back. $14 million in guaranteed prizes are up for grabs. Look, Circa Millions, 5 NFL picks ATS each week against the spread. Circa Survivor is just pick a different money line winner each and every week. Can't pick the same team twice. That's how Survivor works. Look, you can enter in Vegas, play from anywhere. Sports Gambling Podcast crew will be out there the last weekend in August. So if you're out there, hit us up. I was just staying at Circa Stadium Swim, all that shit. Fantastic. That's where Mountain West Media Day was at. Derek Stevens always does such a great job. That's one of the coolest hotels in the world. If not the coolest, I'll go there with that sports book being that big. Circasports.com for all the other details. Once again, circasports.com. What would you do with $14 million? Circasports.com. Check it all out. All right, we are back on the FCS College Football Experience NEC Conference Preview. And let's just get into it. We got 8 teams to break down, and I am very curious. We have not talked pre-episode. We have not said, hey, do you have this team 5th or this team 7th? No. So we do not know our pecking order for what we are projecting in 2023 NEC football. But the 8th ranked team to me, there's only 8 teams, folks. So the worst team in the NEC, in my opinion, this year, and mainly I'm going to base half of this opinion off the fact that they were the hardest team to find any information on. And I am going to go with the Blue Devils of Central Connecticut State. I know that is a bold play because Wagner, who lost 8 games by 20 points or more a season ago, and their head coach, Tom Massella, is 1-23. I repeat, he is 1-23 at Wagner. But I actually think Central Connecticut State is the worst team. They're breaking in a brand new head coach, right? The Ryan McCarthy era is over, and they went with former Justin Fuente assistant at TCU, Memphis, and Virginia Tech, Adam Lechtenberg. Curious, who'd you have at number 8?
So the bottom 2 are pretty obvious. They're Wagner and Central Connecticut State. I did go with Wagner at 8. Just I mean, Central Connecticut State has a little more history, a little more thoroughbred to them than the Wagner Seahawks.
The real Blue Devils, and then you got Wagner, the vacuum company. All right, well, let me explain why I have Central Connecticut State, I had a really hard time getting info, and I'm curious if you were able to find they were the one team that I really, they should be. Are they a part of the witness protection program? Because I've been fucking trying. Like, I'm like, okay, who do they got at quarterback? I see Romello Williams and Sean Mitchell. Here's the hard part. You go to a team page, and if they don't have it updated for 2023, which Central Connecticut State does not, you look at 2022 and it says senior. Well, that means nothing in 2023 college football because you have the COVID eligibility. You also have the extra year granted from the NCAA rules. So that you could be a senior for 3 years these days. So it's very confusing. So I put Romello Williams, Sean Mitchell, who's back, who gets a start. This is a brand new offensive system, right? This is a brand new offensive system. I will say that they lost their star running back, Nasir Smith. He's gone. Maybe they have Eric Surratt back, their top wideout. And then they did bring in, this is one thing that is very encouraging if you're a Blue Devil fan. They brought in Oregon State safety Jonathan Riley. Look, Oregon State had like a top 25 defense a year ago. So I don't care if he's far on that depth chart. This is a power 5 safety you're bringing in. And I can tell you that is impressive, but this team's a mystery team to me. And the fact that they're in year 1 with a coach that really doesn't have any ties to the Northeast, that I was really confused a little bit about the hire. I'm even curious how it came into fruition. That's my concern about Central Connecticut State. Did you get any more intel than myself?
So I went ahead. I dove a little more into the Twitters again, and I've as far as I could tell, Sean Mitchell is gone. So that means there is no quarterback on this roster that has thrown a pass in a college football game.
They're definitely finishing 8th. I feel good. I feel good about this.
What I saw is you're looking at either transfer, and I don't even know where from, sophomore transfer Matt Jenner or junior CJ Duval. So as you mentioned, Nasir Smith, who actually did rush for 1,200 yards, he declared for the NFL draft, so he's gone. Malik Thomas, however, did have 221 yards, 5.3 yards per carry last year. At least that's there. Surratt gone, top 2 wide receivers, both out. Isaiah, not Juice Williams from Illinois back in the day. That is going to be their top wide receiver.
Love the reference.
I love those. Juice and Mendenhall, baby. Love those teams. So that's Isaiah Williams, 212 and a touchdown. Naj Johnson, a tight end, 151 yards, 10 receptions. Those are the top 2 targets. And I got on defense, not a single guy with over 30 tackles coming back to this team.
I went deep too. I was clicking on them and I was like, I got no idea if they're coming back. It says they're seniors last year, right? But I got nothing on this year. I need we almost need.
I'm calling moms. I'm like, hey, is your son gonna play this year? Is he shooting up for the Blue Devils?
You are not late on your mortgage payment. I am calling to see where your son is located right now. Well, here's my logic as for why I think Wagner is going to be better. And first off, we'll look at the Central Connecticut State schedule in a second, but Wagner did have 8 losses by 20 points or more. That's terrible. They were arguably the worst team in all of the FCS a year ago. And somehow this guy still has a job. What does he have? Is this guy, what, the president of Wagner went to Epstein Island and Massella saw him get on the plane or something? I don't understand. He's 1-23. Look, I mean, I understand a long leash. I really do. But fuck, 1-23 as a head coach.
Not just that. He's been a head coach for 13 years in college football. He's only had 3 winning seasons.
He's got some inside Iggy on somebody. I don't know. But I can tell you this is what was encouraging to me and why I don't think he'll be 1-34. I think he's got some wins here. And they do lose their quarterback, Nick Cargman. But so they have Damian Maisel back, who threw for 138 yards a season ago, and Tommy Brown, who never threw a pass. But they brought in a super senior who started at UConn and got some burn at Georgia State, and Stephen Krajewski. I remember watching him at UConn. So you're telling me I can get that type of experience That's a home run get in the NEC in the transfer portal, in my opinion. Getting a guy who started at D1 level, but with multiple programs, got some burn, and then their top rusher from a year ago, Ricky. How do I pronounce this? Spruill.
Yeah, sure.
He's back. Now he didn't run very successfully, only 335 yards a season ago, but doesn't matter. He was young and he's back. They did lose their top wideout Naheem Simmons to USF by but and they actually lost a couple of their top wideouts. So very unproven at the wideout spot, but Kobe Ray Reed is one that I watch. Also, Mark Didio and Travis Shorter could be some emerging wideouts with the vacuum company. And then they returned the cornerback Christian Davis is back, 3 picks a year ago. I just think the returning production, the familiarity with the program, and the fact you're bringing in a quarterback that has played a lot of football is a win for Wagner as far as them not being the worst team in the NEC. I'm curious your take.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just straight up disrespecting the Wagner Seahawks. I'm not going to lie. I 6-time NEC champions, Central Connecticut State. I'm giving them a little more love. All the same things you talked about. I saw there is a wide receiver I thought might be interesting. There's a freshman wide receiver on the Seahawks team, 6'5" Christian Villarrial. Something like that, but 6'5", big body. Maybe could catch a touchdown pass or two from the 2 inexperienced quarterbacks. Who knows? Christian Davis, I thought, was a notable guy coming back. Also, there's a defensive back, Brandon Coleman. He's a former 3-star. He got offers from FIU, UCF, and he transferred from Colorado State in the end. So these two teams are very similar when you're really looking at them. It's just the culture of Wagner. Central Connecticut made the playoffs in 2019. Okay, first round exit, but they made the playoffs in 2019. So they've had a little taste of victory, a little more recent than the Seahawks, who just haven't figured it out. And head coach Tom Massella, I don't know if he is a guy to build a winning culture, and that's my true problem with this team.
Well, let's take a look. I can tell you one thing that is encouraging is last year they played 2 Power 5s. The 2 Power 5s in the FBS. That's not fun. All right. Now this year they still have Rutgers on the schedule yet again, but they don't have another Power 5. They have Navy, and Navy's second game ever. Now they're probably going to lose to Navy, but when you add in the NCAA rule changes, it becomes slightly more winnable than it was a year ago. So you're still playing 2 FBSs. You're collecting that paycheck. You're probably going to lose both those games. But let's look at this Wagner schedule. Week 1, they open up at Fordham, Coffee Field. The advantage here is that Fordham played a week 0 game. So I do think Fordham will fuck them up despite the fact that they lost Tim DeMorat and all those wideouts. That's a huge advantage, I think. Then they get Navy so Navy plays week 0 in Dublin, Ireland, against Notre Dame. And then, they have a bye week 1, and then they are hosting Wagner. So look, they're not going to win it, but I'm saying like maybe the new rule changes make that more interesting than it would be. Then a big one as they head to the to Fairfield, Connecticut, to take on the Pioneers of Sacred Heart. Then they're home to Merrimack, and then they're at Rutgers. I'm going to be honest with you. I got them 0-5 at the bye week. What do you have them at?
Yeah, 0-5 as well. Not much of a chance I see for them to beat any of those teams.
Now, out of the bye week, they're at St. Francis, which I actually think could be winnable. They're going to be dogs. So 0-6. And then this is the win, baby. Saturday, October 21st. Wagner College Stadium in Staten Island, New York, baby. They're going to take down the Blue Devils of Central Connecticut State and get that dub. And the very next week, they host Stonehill at Wagner Stadium, and I think that is winnable. This stretch is huge because they don't hit the road now. And then on November 4th, they're hosting Duquesne. So like, even though I do think Duquesne and Stonehill are better teams, the fact they get 3 straight home games, I think it's capable of they're capable of grabbing their second win of the season. Then on November 11th, they're at Long Island in Brookville, New York. But They beat Long Island last year, which is still mind-boggling a little bit. And then they end the season against the Post Eagles. Yes, that is a win. I see 3 wins potentially on this schedule, which is why I don't have them at 8th. I have them at 7th. What do you think that final record is for the Wagner Seahawks?
So I had them 1-10 with the win over Post. I mean, I do like that they get Central Connecticut State at home. But here's the thing: is Central Connecticut State? I know they had that huge 2-9 record last year, but they beat this team 34-7.
That's true.
so it makes it hard for me.
How many players are still on that team? The transfer portal. When you bring in a brand new head coach, I mean, I feel like that means normally your team is just jumping around like your fucking House of Pain over here. But I don't know. I mean, I understand your point, but let's take a look at Central Connecticut State, because they opened the season against AIC, the Yellow Jackets. Bring your insurance card. And then, so I do think there's a strong chance they're 1-0.
We're out the gate.
Yeah. Then they host the Skyhawks of Stonehill, which once again, you get them at home. I do think Stonehill's
39-14 last year. They won.
But that coach is gone. That offense is gone. That system is gone. But I see your point. Winnable. And then this is winnable.
Mm-hmm.
Week 3 at Dick Stadium in Kent, Ohio, against an FBS opponent in Kent State. You can build me a case of them being 3-0. Now I kind of think they're going to be 1-2, but you can build me a case. What do you have them at the bye week?
I got them 1-2, but I think Stonehill and Kent State are winnable.
Yeah. Then they head to Providence, Rhode Island to take on the Brown Bears in the Ivy League. I think Brown's better than them. I think Brown beats them. Then they host Delaware State. Interesting. This is winnable. This is winnable. Delaware State breaking in a new head coach too. Then they head to Rooney Field in Pittsburgh to take on the Dukes. Back-to-back away games. See, that's another thing for the Wagner game. It's on the second end of the back-to-back away, man. It's a great spot for the vacuum company.
That's true. You don't just waltz into Wagner College Stadium and count that as a victory.
That's what I'm saying right there, man. And then they get Long Island after that. Then at Sacred Heart, at Merrimack, and home to St. Francis. I'll be honest, they might not win a game after the bye week. Circle the Delaware State game, obviously circle the Wagner game, but they're kind of must watch for me. I got them at 8th. I think their final record is a win against AIC and a win against Delaware State. I got them winning 2 games, and I got them in 8th place. So obviously we differ. I like this contrast that we're having here. And let us know in the chat, NEC fans, if you're on board with us. Okay, so now I'm gonna have you lead the way.
I want to know what Wagner's paying you. What do they got you on the payroll for to have this optimism? You drinking buddies with Tom Massella?
Well, yeah. I mean, dude, I want to know. How they got Krajewski to come in here. This is a guy, dude. Honestly, realistically,
history.
If you started that many games at UConn and you played at Georgia State, how the fuck did Wagner land them? You would think like there's so many other schools that are decent. Like I look at North Dakota State in the FCS, who's, obviously they're like in the national championship every year, but Cam Miller has been somewhat of a liability for them throwing the ball. Why not go and add some depth or at least give them some competition and add Krajewski into that quarterback room? But that's North Dakota State. You can go on and on. We've previewed a bunch of teams already where we've been like, who do they have at quarterback? So I am shocked that he would want to go to Wagner. So I'm buying in. I'm buying into this Seahawk program, even though they're 1-23 under Massella, I think it was Bill McCartney. Actually, I'll pull that up for you. Let's go. I'm going to show my age. Bill McCartney used to be coach of the Colorado Buffaloes when they had the Hail Mary game against Michigan. There's a 30 for 30 on them on ESPN. But Coach McCartney, and I know this is a brand new era of college football, but his first 3 years, he was 7-25 and 1. There was one tie. 7-25 and 1. And his third year, he was 1-10. That was the worst of the 3 seasons. And then it's easy to see a tide turn, because after that they went to bowl games and then eventually the national championship. So what am I saying about Tom Massella? I'm saying he's fucking fantastic, and give me them. I want win totals on all these FCS teams. Okay, so now I'm going to ask you, since I went first on 8th, and then you shot back with who you had as 8th. Who do you have at 6th?
Yeah, man, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take you to Easton, Massachusetts. And I'm going to go with the Stonehill Skyhawks. You may call them the Chieftains, which they were up until the mid 2000s there. But yeah,
and that's offensive. I'm still confused on how this is offensive. I don't understand. It's just language, people. You're making a sound out of your vocal cords. All right. Yeah. So not impressed with, but yes, I had them. We agree at number 6. I have Stonehill as well. Why do you think they, Eli Gardner, 31-29 in 6 years there? That's like, I mean, that's a seriously impressive record. But anyway, continue on with why you have them ranked there.
Yeah. First of all, I think you might've got my phone kind of hijacked by the government. They've been listening to the talks. I got this Native American page that keeps coming up on my Twitter, and I keep seeing their posts. I don't follow them or anything, but they are like all of their posts are about bringing back the Redskins. And I'm like,
and they should. I mean, I just find that, come on. Like, I got into it with someone yesterday. I grew up a Redskins fan. It's like, I don't understand it. I don't understand. I just don't understand it. I've met, and I've actually done stand up at a lot of Native American casinos. And it's one of the first questions I ask, and I never have heard, I've heard white people be outraged, but I've honestly never heard Native American. And I just don't like, to me, I don't know. I don't like, people say, well, they should call them the white skins. I'm like, all right, do it. All right. Like that. This is just language, folks. Anyway, I would love a team called the White Skins.
I grew up about 45 minutes away from Cleveland, Ohio, and when the whole Chief Wahoo and the Indians thing, all that was going down, there was a lot of Native Americans in that area because there's, Cuyahoga County, there's a lot of influence. They were all like, we have bigger problems throughout history.
That's the number one answer I get. That's the number one answer I get. It's like, we don't give a shit about football. But anyway, I mean,
let's talk Stonehill Skyhawks. My thing, I have a big group here of about 3 teams. I mean, honestly, the rest of the teams I think are really, really, really close. Agreed. 3 teams here in this mix that I all think are really close to each other. This one, I thought maybe one step back just from a player standpoint as far as roster talent. But QB Asher Carrera, top 25 candidate for Jerry Rice Award in 2022, 1,500 yards, 14 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He's back. Running back Jermaine Corbell, 774, 9 touchdowns, 6.3 average. He returns. Tom Camella. Also, he's like a lot of preseason polls have him as one of the better running backs in the conference, and he's their second guy. He's back. Scrambling quarterback Matt Arvanitis is also back. He comes in, runs some Wildcats and different packages. Wide receiver, they spread the ball a lot, so they keep most of their names. Lose a couple.
Top 2 wideouts are back as far as I could tell.
Exactly.
In Cameron Alves and Will Diamatanis. So continue on.
No, that's exactly what I was going to say. And there was 6 guys over 100 yards last year. So this team spreads the ball around. The names don't necessarily really matter. Defense was a little harder to figure out who's where, what's what. But I will tell you, they had 7 different players that recorded interceptions last year, 8 that recovered fumbles. This team forces turnovers. So I like this team, actually. I think they're making a lot of noise for a team that just came up. And it's just the way it shook out that I had them at this spot, but really close.
Yeah, second leading tackler on the team, CJ Davis, is back. It was hard. That's the one concern to me is I circle the defense and I go, how will you be in 2023? But Yeah, no, I had him at the same spot. Eli Gardner, and this is what their second D1 season. He's 31-29. He's a proven good coach. But we both had him at 6. Okay, well now I'm going to ask you what you have at 5th, because since we agreed, it does not count for me to state my team. So at 5th, who do you have? Well, first, no, let's go through Stonehill schedule. Because the Skyhawks, or whatever they're calling themselves these days, they open up. This is a really intriguing game, week 1 against the Wildcats of New Hampshire in the CAA. That's a loss, I think, but what better time to catch them than week 1? Then they head to a root field to take on Central Connecticut State, who Mike has winning the national championship. So you got to love these next 2 games at Central Connecticut State and at Georgetown. I know they're doing the wacky 3-game road trip because there's a third road game there, but I think they can beat Central Connecticut State and Georgetown. And then the Saturday, September 23rd matchup is at Fordham Field, at Coffee Field against Fordham. That's probably going to be a loss because I think Fordham's just on it. Then they're home to St. Francis, which I think is winnable. And then they're at Duane Stadium in North Andover, Massachusetts, taking on Merrimack, which I think is a loss. I think they could be 3-3, but if I had to set lines, 2-4, based on them being favored at the bye week. How about yourself?
Yeah, so I actually do have them going 3-3 into the bye week. I have the loss to New Hampshire. I have them beating Central Connecticut State and Georgetown. Fordham, like you said, Fordham's a whole new team, so who knows? But I have them taking the L there. I do have them pulling the upset over St. Francis with the complete roster overhaul going on there. It was only 17-13 last year that St. Francis beat them. So being at home now, maybe they get up for that game. I got them getting the upset. And then at Merrimack, I have them taking the loss. But again, 17-10 last year, Merrimack got them. So honestly, every game's fairly winnable, other than I think the New Hampshire and Fordham are probably losses.
Look, I was only setting the line. I think the more that I think about it, I think you're probably right that they will be 3-3. So, and here's the benefit of this schedule is they have 2 bye weeks. So they get the bye week here on October 14th. And remember, they're not eligible. Even if they win, they cannot play in the FCS playoffs because they're still, there's some stupid NCAA thing. You got to wait 3 years or something. But they get off the bye week. They're home to Sacred Heart, which becomes a little bit more winnable because of that bye week, I think. Then they're at Wagner. You can talk me into 4-4 at that point, but in maybe even 5-3. Then they get another bye week before they head to Rooney Field to take on Duquesne and host Long Island to end the season, which I think all of those are winnable games. I just think probably going to end up. Honestly, I think I'd probably put them at 5-6, 4-7. Wouldn't shock me if they're 6-5. Best case scenario, what do you think? 7-4.
Best case, yeah, I would say so. I think they could go 7-4. I got them sitting 5-5. They play the 10-game schedule because that's
right. They have the 10-game schedule. Yeah. So wait. So then let me retract my statement. So then I have them at wait. So let me build the best case scenario here. Best case scenario wins against Central Connecticut State, Georgetown, St. Francis, Sacred Heart, Wagner. That's 5 right there. And then they get Long Island. Actually, best case scenario, they win those final 2 and they get to 7-3. But I think 6-4 is probably most they're like for a really good season for them. And what I have them at is probably 4-6 or 5-5.
Yeah.
That sound fair?
That is fair. I think now after re-looking at it, I think 6 games I feel like is my ceiling. There's one of those teams that I think maybe I'm a little higher on than you. So we'll see. But yeah, I think six wins is probably where I see the cap. I got them going 5-5.
There we go. All right. So who do you have at 5th as the question I was going to ask you before we broke down the Sky Chiefs schedule? Who do you have at 5th?
I got the Duquesne Dukes actually.
Well, dude, we're fucking agreeing too much.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. But it's hard to fade Jerry Schmidt. This is the 19th season at Duquesne, 5-time NEC champs, and they've only been in the NEC since 2008. Are we making a big mistake here knowing that we have that type of pedigree with the Dukes? And I can tell you this, they played 2 FBS teams a year ago and they almost knocked off one of them. Talk to me about why you have Duquesne sitting there at number 5. Cause I do too.
Yeah, honestly, it was kind of hard to look at this team and see the history. Like you said, 16 conference championships, 2 playoff appearances in the FCS. Really, really hard to look at this team and put them as low as I did. But it's the roster for me. So you're returning quarterback Joe Mishler, 1,866 yards. That's fine. 17 touchdowns. That sounds good. 14 interceptions. I got a problem with that.
He's gotta work on that. And what's crazy is he did those numbers with a great run game, and then their running back is now at Liberty. So
yeah, he transferred.
but I did see so they lose, I think, their top 2 backs, but Jamario Clements is projected to be one of their running backs. I'm assuming he's going to get the start. 5 yards a carry a year ago. Mm-hmm. Pittsburgh football, you got to, in the city of Pittsburgh, you got to run the fucking ball. That was shocking though that he had that many interceptions, considering they I wonder how many of those came against Florida State. But anyway, they also lost their top 2 wideouts. One of them's trying out for the Pittsburgh Steelers. The other one is at Georgia Tech now.
Yes, sir.
And so I really had to go deep on the in the wide receiver room to see. I'm assuming Joey Isabella and Nick Leopold are the top 2 wideouts, but I'm somewhat talking out of my ass right now.
Yeah, stab in the dark.
Yeah. How about this though? Did you get a chance to look at the defensive side of the ball for the Dukes?
I did. I mean, I saw that they lost linebacker Todd Hill, which really hurts.
Wait, they lost him? I didn't see that information.
Yeah, he transferred to Pitt. And he got the Twitters. It's all about the Twitters.
He's a fucking stud. He had 9 sacks last year. Yeah. I was ready to be like, whoa. Okay. I was wondering why he wasn't considered, because I did find an article of like who they thought could be the defensive player of the year. And I'm like, none of them have Todd Hill. He had to transfer. But then I was Googling if he transferred, and you're right. You gotta type it into the search engine on Twitter.
I'm telling you, man. You gotta, when you get a phone call from a number that you don't know and you kind of Google it, and they want you to pay for the service to tell you, that's what you got to do with these FCS teams.
Yeah.
You got to hire a private
fucking
investigator.
Todd Hill stabbing me in the back. All right, I might move them to 6 now.
You got to hire Matt Dillon from There's Something About Mary to fucking dig into these teams. Yeah, Todd Hill is gone. Transfers to Pitt, big pickup there for the Panthers, maybe. Pass rush, though, you do have D lineman Kevin Kurzinger, 3 sacks. AJ Ackerman, 2 sacks coming back. Defensive back CJ Barnes. I always say I don't really love when your top tackler is a defensive back. Safety's fine, but when you're talking corner, that worries me. But he is back, CJ Barnes, and Aiden Garnes. 2 interceptions. He returns. So there's some names, but losing Todd Hill, obviously big hit.
The only thing I fear here is you look back, and by the way, I was going through, to give you an idea, folks, I keyed in on Wagner having 8 losses by 20 points or more. Well, Central Connecticut State was 0-3 in 1-score game. So maybe you're right that they could have a better year if they just are better in close games. But I also think losing the coach, it takes time to bring in a new system and defense. But then we talked Stonehill. Stonehill was 2-3 in 1-score games a year ago. And then you get to Duquesne. They have a 10-point loss at Hawaii, which is probably the farthest fucking road game in American college football this past year. And they had 3 1-score losses. So I think this team was a lot closer to being decent. Now, like we alluded to, they did get kind of rated in the portal. But yeah, I had them at 5 too. Okay. So, let's take a look at the Duke schedule, because you know what's going to help? Not having Florida State and Hawaii as your road games. Look, I'm not saying Hawaii was great, but damn, that's a far trip. You're going to Florida and Hawaii. They open up week 1 at Rooney Field against Edinburgh on NEC front row on that app. The Fighting Scots It's offensive. How dare them? But I think they're going to be 1-0. And then look, as much as you know what I love about this game at Mountaineer Field, week 2. I know Duquesne's probably going to get fucking destroyed at West Virginia, but Pittsburgh against Morgantown, it just means something. And the very next week, Pitt plays them. So it's like the West Virginia is going through the Pittsburgh universities in back-to-back weeks. Fantastic for the sport, in my opinion. I got them losing that. And then they head down to Conway, South Carolina, where I actually think they played there a couple years ago and gave them a game, but I'm trying to quickly pull that up, but yeah, I think they're going to be 1-2. What do you think there?
Yeah, I got them 1-2 going into the bye as well. Like you said, maybe a little bit of a look ahead spot there for West Virginia, but I don't see that one panning out. And Coastal, I'm feeling kind of comfortable with Coastal and Tim Beck. So yeah, I'm going with 1-2.
Yeah. So then they get a bye week, much needed bye week before they head to Bethpage Federal CU Stadium. Terrible fucking name. To take on the Long Island Sharks. They used to be the Blackbirds, but guess what? Fucking somebody was offended by the Blackbirds. Jesus. But now they're the Sharks. I think you could make a case that Sharks probably, Sharks do kill people. Anyway, that game's very interesting to me. That game is very, very interesting to me. But since it's on the road, I think I favor the Long Island Sharks. Then back-to-back away, man. 4 out of their first 5 games are on the road. They go to Newark to take on the Blue Hens of Delaware. Then they come back home to take on Central Connecticut State. That's a win, baby. All right. That's win number 2, maybe number 3 if they can get Long Island. Then they're home to St. Francis. Battle of Pennsylvania going on there. Winnable. I think I might even, they're probably going to be short dogs, but then they're at Sacred Heart. Then they're at Wagner. Then they're home to Stonehill and then at Merrimack. I kind of think this team, when I look at this thing, I'm kind of thinking at the end of the day, give me 5 wins.
That's what I got, brother.
Yeah,
I got
5 wins.
Yes, sir.
All right. So look, did you agree on those? So the wins to me are Edinburgh, the Fighting Scots, Central Connecticut State as 2. Wagner 3 for sure. Stonehill 4, and then I think they get one other game, maybe the St. Francis game because it's homecoming.
That's
if not, if not, then maybe at Long Island. So, all right, well that is that. So look, we keep agreeing here. So before we get to number 4, I want to tell you that the FCS College Football Experience NEC Conference Preview episode is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Yes, Best Ball Mania is here, and Underdog Fantasy is giving away $15 million in prizes. Underdog Pick'em is a great way to get down on your favorite MLB and NFL season player props. There's so many ways to win over on Underdog, and Underdog's available in so many different states. Head on over to UnderdogFantasy.com. Use that promo code SGP. And for 100% deposit bonus up to $100. Once again, that's UnderdogFantasy.com. Promo code SGPN. All right, we are back on the NEC Conference Preview. Shout out to Dick Gersberger, says, I'm getting ready to watch the Ottawa Red Blacks. Maybe they have some NEC players on their team. And believe it or not, I do have a TV here in the studio that is watching the BC CFL game as well as they take on Saskatchewan. But yeah, check out. I mean, I've been on fire. I was on, I was on VSiN the other night, and I've been on their show every week. And I was alerted that I was 11-0. Oh no, 10-0 at the time, and then I hit the game last night, so 11-0. I don't know how. I'm about to buy some real estate up in fucking Canada. All right,
that's not very down under of you.
I'm the real wildfire. All right, it's not that other one. All right. Let's talk some more though, because I'm curious, since we haven't argued in a while. I'm curious who you have at number 4 in the NEC. Mike, what'd you go with at the 4th ranked team?
So this week is a week I've looked forward to every week since I was like a little 10-year-old boy. it's Shark Week, and that's what I'm going with, man. Shark Week right now. LIU, I got them coming in at 4.
Finally, we differ.
There we go.
We differ. And I want to hear this because I don't have them at 4, and I am kind of sold on that. Did you see the way they ended the season last year, buddy? Let's talk about Long Island for a second. I have Long Island ranked number 2, just so you know.
Ooh.
They finished number 3 a year ago, and they ended the season with 4 straight wins. You got to remember that was Ron Cooper's first year in Long Island, and they found something. Originally, they were starting Derek Green, aka Trent Green's son, and when he left, I'm sorry, not left. When he got replaced by Luca Stanzi. So wait, yeah, Stanzani, I think it is Stanzani. Yeah. He was a freshman who impressed. He impressed, man. 1,200 yards, 13 touchdowns, 4 interceptions for a freshman. He should be featured during Shark Week. All right. Because no, but honestly, so I'm optimistic. I know I want to talk to you about, but bringing back also their top running back from a year ago and their top 2 wideouts. What their top, by the way, their running backs, Pat Brown, their wide receivers, Michael Love and Davon Wells, and then the tight end position. Don't sleep on the tight end position. Owen Glasgow, 62 catches for 610 yards, 5 touchdowns. And then here's what really sells me. I get it. They lost their awesome safety. Victor Nelson Jr. is going to be starting at Boston College, but I'm a big Ed O'Neill fan, and I'm assuming this is his son. When you could play like this, Eric O'Neill, who I did see was the one publication I did say would say preseason defensive player of the year. 10 sacks a season ago, 4 touchdowns, 1 football game. I raise you one higher, 10 sacks on the season. Talk to me though. I mean, did you have any other points? Because when I look back at Long Island season, especially with the first year coach, I did see that tide turn. Where's my clip? I really did see that.
It's easy to see a tide turn.
I saw it, and I saw the way the team was playing down the stretch of the season, and I'm buying in to the Sharks. I really am, and I'm curious why you think, you know. Why are you don't have them a little higher than me?
Yeah, so their non-con for me, for one, is pretty brutal. I got them all on the road. So.
Yeah, their first 3 weeks of the season, not fun, but that's how you build a culture. You know what I mean? You hit the road. That's where that's actually where they said that a lot of bands become the closer to one another. They hit the road, and that's when they start cranking out the hits. But yes, Long Island opens the season at Ohio and Curtis Rourke. These are the breaks. The Ohio play for the MAC championship. Then at Bryant, who I actually think is pretty decent. And then at Baylor and Dave Aranda. So I do have them 0-3 heading into their bye week on September 23rd. How about yourself?
Same here. That's one of my major problems with the team.
But now is where I get excited because I think they can beat Duquesne. I think they can beat Sacred Heart. I think I was kind of high on Maine before I saw how many players left in the portal, and I'm regressing some on Maine. So I think that's a winnable game, even though Maine's been a very good school over the years. I remember when Maine went to Starkville and upset Mississippi State. Then Merrimack at home, at Central Connecticut State, at St. Francis, home to Wagner, and then at Stonehill. I'll be honest, like after the bye week, I think every game is winnable. I'm not calling for them to go undefeated there, but I do think it would not shock me. What is that? 8 games after the bye week? It wouldn't shock me if they're 6-2 or 7-1 in that 8-game stretch. So I am bullish on the Sharks of Long Island, as they call them now. What do you have them going record wise?
Yeah, I have them 5-6, so I got them right in the mix of things. I got them 4-3 in conference. So, I think this is a really good team. I think they got a lot coming back. I think you're talking. This team had 10 conference championships between 2000 and 2018 when they were in D2.
That's what I'm talking about.
6 D2 playoff appearances in that time. So, yeah, this team has a winning pedigree. Ron Cooper, he's been around the block. Eastern Michigan, he coached at. Louisville, he coached at. He's been around for a long time. They got the names on the roster. It's the non-con for me that's rough. And look, I haven't beaten Maine on the road, honestly. I have them beating Sacred Heart, who I'm actually pretty high on. I have them beating Duquesne, who I think they're pretty neck and neck with. You're right. Outside of the bye week, all those games are winnable. I just don't have them winning every one. So I'm pretty high on them. I think they're pretty good. It's just I had them falling a little short.
And remember, they lost to Bryant by 2 last year. So that even that game that we're penciling in is like an auto loss, considering that Baylor and Ohio are sandwiched between them. I wouldn't even shock me if they knocked off the Bulldogs of Bryant. I can't wait to watch, and I'm excited for the Blackbirds. Blackbirds, that's offensive. The Beatles have a single called Blackbird.
Yes, they
All
do.
right. The fuck? How do they? What? I don't understand this world. Anyway, look, next up we go to so now I will give you who I had as 4th. I had the red flashes of St. Francis. I know that they won the conference a year ago. I got some red flags flying around this program, and mainly because of what departed. I know they're 2-time NEC champ. They're coming off a 9-3 season. But Chris, how do I pronounce Vallejo? I think it is.
Villarrial?
Villarrial. I think it is Villarrial. Yeah. Cole Doyle is back at the quarterback spot, which is actually pretty substantial. He arguably is the best quarterback in this conference. That's huge. And I did watch them a year ago, and I was really impressed with them, especially the Akron game. But it's what they lost, because they lost a ton, man. Have you seen where these guys have landed?
It
all
shows,
over the place. Yeah, it shows how good of a program this was a year ago. And it confuses me to how they got beat that bad in the playoffs, because Donnell Brown, who was the defensive player of the year in the conference last year, he is now at Maryland. They also lost linebacker Sebastian Benjamin to Western Kentucky, who won. So Maryland, a Power 5, Western Kentucky, who won the Conference USA. And then you get Makai Jackson, who is a stud wideout, by the way. If you watch this team last year, I like these wideouts. He's now at App State, and I think he's going to start at App State. Wide receiver Elijah Surratt, also penciled in to be a starter at JMU. These guys are all studs. I just don't know how you're going to be able to replace that. I saw that Lavelle Armstead isn't on the roster too, which was
in the portal.
I mean, dude, why should we be bullish on this team? They got Quishan Holmes back, I think 479 yards. And then receiver wise, the top guy back, I think, is Dawson Snyder at 38 catches for 758 yards. So decent production there. But defensive side of the ball, I thought was kind of a mess too. I mean, what talk to me on why you're higher on St. Francis than myself.
So St. Francis, I have it 2, and it's not a comfortable 2. The thing I don't like about this team is Villarrial, however you want to say that, is in his 13th year with this team. He's 52-73. So they did go 9-3 last year. Great, but only 3 winning seasons with St. Francis. This isn't a blue blood that's been knocking it out of the park year after year after year. They won the Northeast Conference. They won it in 2016. They won it in 2022 last year. Also bounced in the first round of the FCS playoffs, both of those years, pretty handily. So they lost a lot of names on defense. That side of the ball is an absolute nightmare. I don't know what that defense is going to look like this year, if I'm being honest. And there were good players on defense that they lost to, not just typical FCS. This team graduated.
Well, that's where I worry about it. Is like in the FCS, I don't know that you have the depth. Mm-hmm. Your lack of scholarships, and then like when you take those type of hits, I just worry that I think losing players like that, you worry more in the FCS than you do in the FBS.
I agree. What I was kind of just seeing though is looking at it, Cole Doyle, you talked about, he comes back almost 2,000 yards, 21 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Now, he did lose his two of his bigger wideout, his number 1 and his number 3 wideouts from last year. You already covered, but Dawson Snyder, 6'4", put up 758 yards, 3 touchdowns last year. You also have Norval Black. He was a former 3-star recruit for Penn State. He transferred in, so maybe a little bit of noise there. You lost the running back, Lavelle Armstead. He goes in the portal, no destination yet. That Quishon Holmes, 479 yards, 5 touchdowns on 8 yards per carry. That raises an eyebrow to me. So I'm saying,
no, that certainly does raise an eyebrow. Now the question is can he sustain that? Obviously, I actually think it's very hard to sustain that. But my question is that will they have the bell cow? You know what I mean? Is he going to be able to be that guy that every defense is going to be keying in on?
If they're still airing out the ball, I think maybe possibly he could. Plus, there is still the third running back on the depth chart from last year, Damon Horton, 325 yards, 4 touchdowns. So a little experience there. Defensive side of the ball, I'm really worried about. Honestly, I have this team at 2, and I was kind of like, should I drop them down? I'm not sure. I think they're very close to in this mix of this group of teams that we're talking about right now. I'm not super comfortable with where they're at, but let's look at the schedule, right?
Yeah, let's take a look at the schedule because I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch each and every game throughout the season. Week 1, the Red Flash head to Waldo Stadium Thursday, August 31st. Look, if you're in the Michigan area, go over there, check out Waldo's bar afterward or before. Great liquor pitchers. And Kalamazoo. Look, I'll be honest. Had they been returning those guys, I actually think they would win this game because Western Michigan's breaking in a brand new head coach. It's week 1. This is still like it wouldn't. It's when you have a coach that's got and a quarterback that have been there so long, and Western Michigan who's kind of grabbing just a brand new slate. It's almost like the Akron game last year, but I think Western Michigan still wins it. They have a decent fan turnout there, and I think WMU pulls it off. But not a crazy upset if that happened. Who are you taking in this one?
Yeah, I got Western Michigan, but I would watch this one closely. Like you said, they gave Akron a hell of a game last year. So yeah. you never know. And I had the Akron over last year, and I was watching that.
Me
game.
too.
Like, oh
my God, that was a very scary game. And they open up the first 3 weeks on the road. Shout out to the Road Warrior. It is not Mel Gibson. It is this fucking St. Francis team because they are at Robert Morris, the Colonials in Moon Township, Pennsylvania. Joe Walton Stadium, the former New York Jets head coach in the 1980s. Shout out to him and rest in peace. At Robert Morris, very winnable game. I almost think they should be favored in this. You look at old Bob Morris a year ago. I mean, okay, they weren't awful. They were awful. 0-11. But they were actually not as bad as it's funny. I was comparing their thing to Wagner's, their resume to Wagner's. I was like, they were actually a lot better than Wagner. Like Wagner won 1 game, and I'm like,
that's saying a lot. You got Wagner as world beaters this year.
But look, dude, you go back at Robert Morris's, they had a 2-point loss to Dayton, who was good last year. That you had a 5-point loss to Delaware State. You had some of these. They showed some fight in a few games. They did get their ass whooped in a lot of games though. Only a 17-point loss at Miami, Ohio at Jaeger Bomb Stadium, and they were like a fringe bowl team. I think they made a bowl. I got them 1-1. 1-1. You?
Same.
Now they head to Delaware. Rematch of the FCS playoff matchup from a year ago. It won't be as cold, but once again, they're in Pennsylvania, so I don't know. Delaware whoops their ass, I think. 1-2, and then they're home to Sacred Heart, the Pioneers. I got Sacred Heart pulling the upset. I got them 1-3, and then they're at Stonehill. They might get this one. Did I call? I think I called for Stonehill to win this one though. No, I didn't. That was the other one. I think that was the Duquesne one. So they beat Stonehill. So I got them going into the bye, sitting there at 2-3, possibly 3-2. What do you got them at?
I got them the same thing. I got them 2-3 as well going into the bye.
All right, then they're home to Wagner, win, 3-3. At Duquesne, which I have as a loss, 3-4. Home to Merrimack, which I have as a loss, 3-5. Home to Long Island, 3-6. Wait, am I missing another game here? They only play 10?
Yeah, they only played 10. I had to look at that like 4 times.
And then at Central Connecticut State, I'll give them that win. So I got them at 4-6. Schedule a game, guys. What the fuck are you guys doing? Curious, what's your final record for the Red Flashes?
So I got them on the flip side of that. I got them on 6-4, and here's why. We're pretty much similar going into the bye week, and then coming out of it, I got them beating Wagner. Here's my thing: is what was really hard. It's almost like when you're talking Colorado this year. It's like, how do you project this team that lost everybody, but they still got some names? Let's look at Duquesne, Merrimack, LIU. Those are 3 games that they won last year. Now, I know we have an entirely different team. However, there's still a lot of teams from the offense. They put up 51 on Duquesne last year, 52 on Merrimack last year, 57 on LIU. That's where I ran into the trouble here. So I got them losing at Duquesne, beating Merrimack, beating LIU at home. Really tough to kind of really sort it out. But that was like the main buzzsaw I ran into, is like, how do you project them to lose to those teams when a lot of the offensive pieces are still there and they put up 50 plus on all of them?
Yeah, fair. And they have the 2 bye weeks. There's only 10 games. What the fuck's going on here? And then look, okay, so I'm curious then, because at number 3, I think we have the same. Do we have the same team then? I have Sacred Heart at number 3.
Ooh, no. We're going to have a little bit of parity, buddy. I got Merrimack at number 3.
Oh, beautiful. I will say, I had a really hard time with the top 3. I actually think there's a little bit of a gap between, and I know that's crazy because St. Francis won this thing last year, but so the reason why I have Sacred Heart, which by the way, Mike, what is it? Nofri, that guy, he can fucking coach. Entering year 13, 67 and 53, 3 FCS playoff berths. Question is the quarterback spot. Is it going to be Rob McCoy, super senior? I saw him back on the roster. Or Cade Pribula, something like that. So a little bit of a question mark there. Even McCoy didn't get a ton of burn, but they do have a stud running back and the best running back in this conference in Malik Grant. I'm shocked that I thought there was a chance he would leave. I'm glad he stayed. But still, that guy's a fucking stud. But look, they lose their top wideout to Western Michigan, who's on the fucking schedule, might I add. Yes, Kenneth Womack is now at Western Michigan. LJ Haskett is a wide receiver that could have a big year, 28 for 355 a year ago. He's going to step up, I think, be the number 1 wideout. And then to me, the defensive lineman Carson Primrose. That guy's a stud. 4 sacks a year ago. What do you make? Talk to me why you have Sacred Heart number 1.
Yeah, so you already covered it. Nofri, he's a winning coach. This team's a winning program. They joined the FCS in 1999. They have 6 conference championships since 2001. Most recently, 2021, coming out of the COVID year. 4 FCS playoff appearances, all first-round exits, but still, you're getting there. So Nofri in particular, 5 conference championships since 2012 while being head coach. You lose McCray. You got Rob McCoy, like you said, super senior, experienced, knows the game. He's a dual threat guy. Why do I love this team? Because you have a dual threat quarterback. You have a great running back. The receivers are there. I'm not really worried about them being there or not, because I think this team's going to run the ball a lot. And then you bring back your top 4 tacklers. Number 1 and number 2 are both linebackers, DeAndre Bird and Ernest Howard, who had 43 tackles and an interception. Defensive backs, Marcus Mason, 3rd in tackles, 2 interceptions. You covered Primrose with the 4 sacks, 4th in tackles. Arsheen Giles, 2 interceptions, 6 passes deflected last year. All those names are back. This defense is nasty. I love when a football team can run the ball and play good defense. That's what Sacred Heart can do. add that into the pedigree of them in this conference. And I think you have the recipe for a little bit of a surprise.
Fair. And I will say the non-con not as bad as some of these other schools, but especially where they get their non-con, it's almost like a bowl game for them. Week 1, they get Lafayette, the Leopards. That should be a win. And then week 2, they head to DC to Cooper Field to take on Georgetown, the Hoyas. And then they get Wagner. So I fully expect this team to be 3-0.
Out the gate rolling.
Out the gate before they go to DeGaulle Field, whatever it is, in Loretto, Pennsylvania, to take on St. Francis, which I called for Sacred Heart. So I got a 4-0. And then the thunderstorm comes. Merrimack beats them 4-1 at Long Island, 4-2 at Yale, 4-3. Yale's good at Stonehill. Man, 3 road games all in October here, back to back. I'll give them the Stonehill one. Then they get Duquesne. That's a win. Then Central Connecticut State. That's a win. They get a bye week. And then Jim Mora Jr., friend of the program, been on the show, is going to beat them. So I have them sitting there at what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 3 to end the season here. Or 7-4. 7-4 is it? My losses are UConn, Yale, Long Island, and Merrimack.
So I got them coming out the gate of the 3-0. I think they drop one of 2, either St. Francis or Merrimack. I think both of them are winnable games for this team. I'm going to say they split it. The road trip is where I'm worried. You got the 3 games on the road. You got LIU, who did beat them last year. You got Yale, who I did chalk up as a loss. And then you have Stonehill. I think the experience of this team, the defense, both LIU and Stonehill, especially Stonehill, little gimmicky sometimes. So
if you're a Stonehill fan, though, you got to love that spot, being the third end of a back-to-back.
Definitely, especially after. Yeah. I mean, but what we're counting this Yale game as a loss automatically, and I have it as a loss too. Things could be a little different there in Yale with a little bit of new faces going on in the coaching staff. I don't know. So interesting. And then at the end, you got 2 games, Duquesne, Central Connecticut State. I think those are both wins. I think they're better than both those teams flat out. UConn lost as well. So I got 8-3, 6-1 in conference.
Wow. I like the contrast. Now let me build a case for why I think the Merrimack Warriors are going to be making, they're finally eligible to make the FCS playoffs. And I think the Warriors coming out to play is going to happen because, man, Dan Curran's doing a great job there. 9th season at Merrimack. They weren't eligible last year. And Gavin McCusker is back. 10 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. I look for improvement there. They did lose their star freshman running back, which was still shocking to me. This dude had a B season for them, Victor Dawson, and then he bounces in the portal. But guess what? Tavon Evans, I think it is he's back after 586 yards and 5 touchdowns. So I don't expect a ton of drop off at the running back position. Then they did lose Jakari Carter to Georgia State, their best wideout, but Hayden Fisher and Jelani Mason are back at the 2nd and 3rd wideouts from a season ago. And then the defensive side of the ball. I am bullish on the defensive side of the ball, especially the defensive line. They put an NFL lineman into the pros with the Steelers right now, but they got Gary Roseman coming back. This guy had 4 interceptions a year ago. And then let me key in on that defensive line again. Brandon Roberts, 3.5 sacks back. Nicholas Lennon, 3.5 sacks back. Jordan Riggs, 2.5 sacks back. I expect this defensive line to be the best in the NEC. And that is why I have the Merrimack Warriors getting it done and going to the FCS playoffs. Talk to me about Merrimack.
This team, they're stacked on defense. It's pretty crazy. I think Sacred Heart, that was the defense that I like the most. But looking at this one, I mean, you have a lot coming back in the front 7 in particular. Defensive line is deep too. There's a lot of guys with burn, a lot of guys that got some sacks, a deep defensive line, deep linebacker room. You mentioned Gary Roseman, also Shane Butler on the other side of the corner, 3 interceptions. He's back as well. offense was the part that I'm a little concerned about. And here is what I'm going to talk about. Gavin McCusker, not only the number's not stellar, but 47.2 passing completion percentage.
That's good on NEC football.
And you're talking about that in the NEC. That is a problem for me. I'm surprised with that low of a completion percentage that man only had 3 interceptions. That's something else. And then, like you said, you lose Victor Dawson. You lose him to Cincinnati. That's a guy that he's playing Power 5 football right now. That's a big name to lose. And also top wideout Jakari Carter he's going up to the FCS or FBS too. So it's interesting. I think Merrimack is right there. I think they're right in the hunt. If I were to go back and look at it again, I might even honestly put them above St. Francis. I think I was a little hesitant to drop St. Francis because of them putting up 50-some points on Merrimack. But really looking back at the roster, I do like this defense. I think I'm still just a little bit higher on Sacred Heart. McCusker worries me. 47.2. Don't love it.
Fair. Let's look at the schedule because look, in my opinion, FCS on FCS. All right, not FCS against FBS because I want to see Northern Iowa State. There's a few other ones. Week 1, to me, the game I want to see most. Week 1 is a Thursday night game between Campbell and William and Mary, but also right next to that, if I had to rank them, would be Holy Cross Merrimack taking on Holy Cross. I'm high on Holy Cross. I think Matthew Saluka and the Crusaders are nasty, but this game was not. This was a final score was a 14-point game, but it was a closer game than people realize. I think a year ago. Now that was in North Andover. Now this one's in Worcester. Worcester sauce. No, I'm joking. This is at Fit and Field in Worcester. How do I do the Boston accent?
You gotta ask Marky Mark, man.
Yeah. Anyway, I have them 0-1. You?
Same.
That game's awesome though. It's one of the best week 1 matchups.
I'm really excited about that game.
Yeah. Week 2, they host Lehigh. Lehigh's breaking that brand new. This is a win. That's a win. They're 1-1. And then they got Virginia Lynchburg, the Dragons, ridiculous name, and 2-1. Then they're at Wagner, 3-1. Then they're at Sacred Heart. So to me, they have like a 3-game bye week between Lehigh, Lynchburg, and Wagner. If anything, Lynchburg's probably the best of the 3. So I like that leading up to that road game at Sacred Heart, which is why I have Merrimack beating Sacred Heart and moving to 4-1. And then they get Stonehill at home. I got them 5-1 at the bye week. How about yourself?
Yeah, I got them 3-2. I don't like. I know Wagner. I think they suck. But still, you got a back-to-back road trip, and Sacred Heart's the second end of that back-to-back. And then we're about to talk about another little road trip coming up here out of the bye week. So yeah. I think that's one of the reasons I'm a little higher on Sacred Heart. But I like where Sacred Heart gets them there on the second leg. But, I mean, you can't ask for some more winnable games. I mean, Holy Cross is tough, but like you said, Lehigh, Virginia, Lynchburg, Wagner, that's a good stretch there to pick up some wins.
And their P5 that I'm about, or I'm sorry, their FBS that I'm about to get to, because after the bye week, yes, they hit the road for 3 straight weeks, which is a common theme in this conference. I feel like at Long Island, winnable, but it's going to be a game. At St. Francis, I have them winning that one. And then you want to talk about a potential big time upset at UMass. All right. At UMass, Don Brown, I get it year 2, but look, Merrimack is just, all right. To me, this is a team that is capable of keeping it very close in that UMass game. You look back at what UMass did a year ago. This team was terrible. Now I get it. It was Don Brown's first year. So I do expect UMass to be better, but this is a team that, was 1-11, and even with that, they beat Stony Brook only by 17 points. They only dropped a cool 20 on Stony Brook. A lot of concerns about the Minutemen, so I think that's a winnable game. And then after that, Central Connecticut State and Duquesne coming to Duane Stadium in North Andover. I think those are winnable. I think they're probably going to go 3-2 or 4-1, and I think obviously with the win against Sacred Heart and to me Long Island, which is the front end after the bye week, That will be enough with the tiebreaker to have them making the FCS playoffs. Sign me up. What's your record prediction here on the Warriors?
I got them 7-4 and 5-2. I don't have them beating UMass. I mean, that's Arizona light right there. He brought in pretty much their entire team.
It is.
And I'm a Don Brown guy. I'll tell you what. Spoiler alert. I'm betting the UMass over. I know that's.
I think I am too. I I was thinking about that. Yeah.
I'm on it. They're my Akron this year. I'm on UMass and the over. I trust Don Brown too much. He brought in a lot of Power 5 transfers again. I'm going. I don't like that this team, they get Sacred Heart and they get St. Francis both on second legs of back-to-back road trips. I think that makes it really, really tough. And I think LIU, I gave them the win there, but that's a battle. They only beat them by 1 last year. And this year they got them on the road. So very interesting. I got them 7-4, 5-2. So not bad at all.
There we go. And so you have the Sacred Heart Pioneers in the FCS playoffs. I have the Merrimack Warriors come out and play. Folks, this is the FCS College Football Experience, and subscribe, tell a friend, because we're breaking down all these conferences. We're gonna have a lot of fun this year, talking best games, all this good stuff each and every week. Locks of the week, all this good stuff. I had a lot of fun with this exercise because I really feel like we said, there's like 6 teams that I think are in contention for it. I do think that there's a small gap between the top 3 and the second tier, the other essentially 4, 5, and 6. But I had a lot of fun with it. Mike, you?
No, same. This is actually, I was thinking the same thing before we hopped on. I was thinking, man, this is probably my favorite conference we've looked at yet. It's just as far as I'm interested to see what happens. I don't think there's a ton separating the middle of the pack. And then when you really go to the top at St. Francis and those portal, the transfer portal, it really opens things up. It's anyone's ball game.
Yeah. So folks, get that NEC app. It's free to download. Look, I don't work for the NEC. I'm just telling you, you can watch the games whenever. Let's go. Subscribe to the FCS College Football Experience. Just go to sg.pn/FCS and we are there. Subscribe. Also, we are on YouTube. You can watch these episodes on YouTube at youtube.com/the college experience. And make sure you give Mike a follow here. Mike Rose at GCG_wins on Twitter. And Mike will be here with me all year talking FCS. We're excited about it. And look, I'm on Twitter at the Colby D. The FCS College Football Experience is on Twitter at TCE on SGPN. We also host the College Football Experience, which is breaking down all 133 FBS teams with a solo podcast for each and every team in the land. We just talked UMass. There's going to be a podcast. It's not out yet because we're not on the letter U, but Akron's already out there. Arizona's out there, all that good stuff. Go listen to those as we continue to do this thing. We also host the College Basketball Experience, the College Baseball Experience, and we have a brand new feed, the Big 12 Experience. Check that out, which will cover all things Big 12. We come together as one on YouTube, youtube.com/the college experience, but you can find this podcast wherever podcasts can be found. So check out those and check out the Sports Gambling Podcast and get the SGPN app. It's free to download in the App Store and Google Play Store. And all right. We will be back next week talking more FCS football as we get closer. We inch closer and closer to the season. I can't wait, folks. Cannot wait to watch, just to me, the NEC race and the fact that you can get that NEC app. It's absolutely fantastic. All right, folks, this is the College Football Experience, FCS style, NEC style. You better start thinking about yours, and we out of here. Run, shoot.